we conducted a study of longleaf pine plantation on the Mary Olive Thomas Tract in Auburn, Alabama, and the effects of not having an active management plan. The longleaf pine is a fire-adapted species whose ecosystem is characterized by frequent fires that help control competition and hardwood encroachment. Longleaf pine plantations require constant maintenance, especially during the seedling and sapling stages of growth, to control understory competition and allow them to get above surrounding vegetation. The once longleaf pine plantation now consists of loblolly pine, privet, and a few surviving longleaf pine. This could possibly be due to loblolly competition, lack of proper maintenance, and absence of fire. Our hypothesis is that longleaf pine plantations cannot survive without an intensive management plan. Fire is crucial to the tree's survival in a competitive environment, such as the Mary Olive Thomas Tract. Here we have the range of the longleaf pine. As you can see, it extends as far north as the southern portion of Virginia, and as far south as below Tampa, Florida. Also as far west as eastern Texas. Due to the hurricane in 1995, Hurricane Opal, the longleaf pine plantation was planted in 1996 and was burned and maintained for a year before it became neglected until just recently. The tract consists of mostly Pacolet sandy loam at an elevation of 650 feet. In terms of climate, the area is primarily a warm, temperate zone with the average annual temperature being 67 degrees. Occasionally, the tract will experience temperatures as low as 16 degrees and as high as 100.
We conducted a 100-acre plot cruise identifying all species in the tract, but measuring the diameter breast height of each tree all trees greater than 6/10 of an inch, and all measurements were recorded to the nearest tenth of an inch. We also measured the crown glass for each measured tree. We began on the southern boundary nearest Mooresville Road, one chain from the eastern boundary and one chain in from the southern boundary, heading north 30 degrees. Each plot was one chain apart, and their plots were measured within 50 feet of a boundary. A total of 106 plots were measured on 16 lines. After the data was collected, we went back to the office to work up a few calculations. First, the calculations were the trees per acre by species. The desired species planted was longleaf at only 70 stems an acre, the remaining. The pioneer species of loblolly, due to the surrounding loblolly stands of this tract, there were 584 stems to the acre. There were several miscellaneous hardwoods, also competing with the longleaf, with sweet gum and oak being two of the most, with stems per acre. And also privet became a big problem, and especially around the SMZ through the middle of the tract. Privet became very thick, almost unpassable, at 390 stems to the acre. Our next calculation from our measurements was the percentage of stems per crown glass by species. The pioneer species that has taken over the tract was so dense that there were hardly any dominant trees, with only 7% of the trees measured being dominant. The majority of trees were in very dense areas, creating nearly half, 40% of the trees being codominant. There were only nearly 17% intermediate and 22% of the loblollies were suppressed. The longleaf, which once again was the planted species on the tract, or hardly any dominant trees at all. Of the few that have survived the fires and the loblolly intruding on them. There were 21% of them were codominant, and the majority that remained were either intermediate or suppressed. The other competition were several miscellaneous hardwoods, as stated previously, such as oaks and sweet gum. They were mostly in the understory, being suppressed at 74%, and then nearly 80% were dead due to the recent fire that was run through the tract earlier this year. The last calculation we computed was the mortality of the longleaf and the loblolly pine on the tract. Of the nearly 500 loblolly tree pines measured, nearly 16% of them had died due to suppression and the previous fire. While sadly only 50 trees were measured that were longleaf, 32% of those had died, mostly due to suppression of other trees.
Active management in longleaf pine plantations is important. So methods to control competition are mechanical, herbicide, and fire. After 18 years without fire, the remaining longleaf in Mary Olive Thomas Tract are under extreme stress due to competition resources. Many longleaf were recently killed due to the combination of competition and intense fire. Longleaf pine is a fire-adapted species that is dependent on fire for survival. But the longleaf pine is more tolerant to competition than one might think. Here, as you can see in our Mary Olive Thomas Tract, the understory consists of primarily privet and other hardwoods at extreme densities in some areas. There are no grasses in the understory due to the fact that only a small amount of sunlight is able to reach the forest floor. The longleaf pine can remain in the grass stage for up to 25 years, waiting on the right conditions or disturbances to take place. But without fire, as you can see, the thick stand and the resulting competition due to the loblolly region, the longleaf pine is quickly choked out and replaced by loblolly. After 18 years without fire, the longleaf trees per acre has been reduced to 70, with loblolly at 584 trees per acre. As you can see, there's one suppressed longleaf pine among all those loblolly pines. This competition stress, along with 18 years of fuel buildup, led to the high mortality of both longleaf and loblolly. As you can see here in this picture, there's a dead longleaf pine that was killed due to the stress of fire and competition. Without constant management, not only do you lose the money put into planting, but also decrease the future value of the stand due to mortality from the reintroduction of fire. The management of longleaf pine on the boundaries of this natural range requires an aggressive management plan. The Mary Olive Thomas Tract needed a much more active plan that requires continuous involvement after planting. The lack of attention allowed the stand to lose value economically and ecologically. Once fire was neglected and loblolly began to take over the stand, we proposed that fire should be a steady regimen to potentially lower basal area and allow the timber to become of a merchantable size. Once the timber can be cut to pulpwood, the stand should be clean cut, burned, and replanted with longleaf using the knowledge we gained from this study to grow trees into higher value timber.
That's pretty